Alright, so greetings from Houston, Texas. Yes, I'm still here. Currently, I am waiting to get an empty trailer to head up to Avadale and then shoot up to Denton, Texas, around the Dallas area. They're not having much success in finding me an empty. Just last night, they sent me to pick up an empty, and my empty was not there. Then they just sent me to another place, which was actually my last drop off, the Ross Distribution Center, and they only had one empty, and it happens to be a 14-footer. So it doesn't look like I can take that either. They're usually 13.5 feet. So getting a little bit of the runaround right now. This sort of stuff happens. We're all human. It's not necessarily anything on Swift, but I'm not exactly stoked. But I figured I'd go ahead and get an update video going because some stuff's been going on. So basically last time I believe I was in Phoenix. I had to do LCQ and simulator training. LCQ is local close quarter training because of the bumper incident. Kind of just reiterating some backing techniques, blindside backing, that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. Before I even did that, though, I was in the Phoenix area, so they shot me down to Calexico where I picked up a load, and then they shot me right back to the Phoenix corporate terminal. So I got that done, and then I had to get up at about 4:30. LCQ training was at 5. I got that knocked out of the way, and then at 9 was simulator training, which some people saw my picture I posted on Facebook. It's like a big video game. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you don't have any momentum or G-force or anything other than your speedometer, it wasn't necessarily the easiest. Like, first they had us all get on and just do a little bit, couple minutes of driving, and then they changed the conditions to snowy conditions. And I ended up, 3 out of 5 of us ended up jackknifing, including me. Another guy ended up hitting a truck that was stopped in front of him that hit a deer, and then the fifth guy, he actually did really well and was able to stop before he hit that truck. Because they can change the snow, they can change the visibility, all that sort of stuff. So the other 2 guys that did jackknife at least got onto the freeway, onto the interstate, but I was going 55 onto the on-ramp, and I jackknifed before I even got on. So not to say that's indicative of how you really drive, but you got to put aside the fact that, oh, this is fun, this is like a video game, and it's not. So the other 2, one of the guys ended up leaving because he worked for Swift in a different department and had to go do something, but the other 2 guys, they got to leave after the snowy conditions, and then me and this other guy had to do some extended stuff because I guess he had an accident or an incident as well. So we had to do about a mile in a city, left here, right there, watch for that pedestrian, watch for the fire truck and the cop car, back into door 3, don't hit that other pedestrian, watch out for that speeding car in the parking lot. And 2 things happened to me. A, I was going 26 in a 20 zone, like a school zone, which are usually 25, but so that happened, A, and then B, when I was rolling through that parking lot at the end, at the final destination, a car T-boned me because I was going too fast in the parking lot, and so by the time I caught up, this guy should have been pulling out in front of me, but I went too much. So and then by the end of it, when I docked in door 3, a cop pulled up, and the guy's like, "Do you know what you did?" I was like, "Well, that guy hit me." He's like, "No, that wasn't it. It was the 26 and a 20." So either way, you had to get a 70%, and I got an 85. I don't know how that happened. I thought I would at least fail for the fact that car hit me and the fact that a cop showed up, but I got an 85. So that was all interesting, and then I finally got out of there, and during all that, I actually had my truck in the shop, in the body shop, because of the bumper incident. They fixed the bumper. There was also about a softball size kind of indent and cracking from, I've mentioned this before, from before we even got the truck, so they fixed that. And so it's like a brand new truck pretty much at this point, so I'm pretty stoked on that. As well, when I was at Phoenix, a guy that I've kind of known through Facebook, YouTube, a guy named Brett, he is at the Swift Academy, and we ended up briefly meeting up on his lunch break, and then the fact that I was still at Phoenix truck was all done, my classes were all done, but the load I was set to take next to Houston wasn't until about 9 p.m. Because they actually offered me a load to Houston. I called 3 minutes late, they gave it to someone else, and I figured with all the weather going on up north, Houston, you know, following the Mexican border would probably be the best way to go. And it turns out I got another one, which is T-called from California to Phoenix, and then I took it to Houston. So Brett and I actually met up again later that night and went to Chili's and got to watch some football and just kind of bullshit. And so that was a lot of fun. I finally met a YouTube fan, which was cool. And he's still in the academy. He's doing well, and so yeah, all the best to him. And I believe he'll be going under the name Road Raider because he's a big Raiders fan. He's kind of from Central California, and so I kind of threw him that name, and he really liked it. So that's pretty much it. I finally got to Houston. I dropped off the load. Like I said, Ross Distribution Center is actually the same destination as my first load ever with my trainer from California to Houston. And I did get some time off, reset my 70. I mentioned all this in the Oddfellow Trucker Q&A. I got to spend some time with my grandparents. Went back to the truck the next night and kind of slept, and woke up at about 7:30 and made my way. So I pretty much had a crazy day from that point. I pretty much cleaned up on about $200, and I only went about 120 miles or so the entire day. The way it worked out was I made about $18 in mileage. I did a short haul, so I got $25 extra for doing the short haul. It was a hazmat load. It was a hell of a hard time finding this place. Out in freaking middle of nowhere by the train tracks. So I got $35 extra for doing a hazmat, and then I finally picked up an empty, and then they needed an empty somewhere, and they offered me $50 more, which never ever happens, but they needed it, so they offered me $50 more just to bring this empty somewhere. So I did that, and the empty was actually going to like a not a junkyard, but a sorting facility. And I get there, and it is congested with all these trailers and shipping containers and all this stuff. And the lady that worked there, she's like, you know, can you help us out and move some of those trailers? I'll give you 5 trailers. I'll give you 50 extra bucks. I was like, sure. Swift hadn't offered me anything else from that point. I had nothing else going on. I had nothing but time, so I said, screw it. So I moved about 5 shipping containers, and then I had to move 2 regular trailers like over to make room total. And by the time it was all said and done, I walk in. She's like, "Did you move 7?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I gave you some extra," so she gave me 70 extra bucks. So between 18, 25, 35, 50, and 70, I cleared about 200 bucks that day, a little over. So I was pretty stoked on that. I did, with all the crap on the ground there. They had shards of plastic, looked like snow. They had all these empty water bottles and all this. There was just crap everywhere, and I ended up rolling over a piece of a pallet. And a little bit of a nail went into one of my drive tires, but it went through the rubber, not through any of the air. So I've been keeping an eye on it, and it seems to be fine. So that's all good. And like I said, I've been kind of running around Houston last night trying to find a trailer. Couldn't find it. Went back to the Pilot, which is near the Swift terminal. It's actually the same Pilot I had dinner with my grandparents the first time when I posted up with my trainer in Houston. So there I was back again. The cycle continues. But now I started my day. I was able to get a lot of stuff done last night because I had some time. So I got the Oddfellow Q&A up, which I didn't even plan on necessarily posting, but it just had a bunch of information, which I figured, why repeat this to people? I can just refer them to that. And then I figured I might as well do the pay scale, and I briefly touched on the bonus structure. So, you know, again, I'm happy to share information, and I'm still a rookie, so it's just kind of a rookie's take on it all. But other than that, I have mentioned before I will be teaming again in about the 3rd week of January. The kid I plan on teaming with, who went to my school a few months after I did, he's just got on the road about a week ago. Last I saw, he's in Colorado, then Utah, now going to, I think, North Carolina. But again, Sharmota, the truck, I was supposed to turn it in because it's a team truck. I was able to keep it. And my driver leader said just keep it through the holidays, and once the holidays are up, I'm just going to kind of say, hey, I'm teaming again in a couple weeks, so they'll probably let me keep her. So I plan on probably keeping her into the spring, and who knows from there. So it's pretty much what's going on at this point. So thanks for checking it out, and I'll check in soon.